Lewis Hamilton spent the entire first half of this season losing races on the straights. Watching Mercedes pull away every single lap by margins he could feel but couldn't fix. Then, just days before the season resumes, Ferrari did something that left the entire paddock talking. Not a statement. Not a press conference. An actual, physical answer to the one weakness that's been holding Hamilton back all year. And by the time this video ends, you're going to understand exactly why this single decision might change everything about the second half of this championship. Let's start with why this news matters as much as it genuinely does. Hamilton enters the second half of the season sitting second in the Drivers' Championship, 50 points behind runaway leader Kimi Antonelli, after a first half that's actually been the strongest of his entire Ferrari career so far. He's picked up a win in Barcelona for further podiums, and looks like a completely different driver compared to a brutal debut season in red, where he failed to score a single podium finish all year. But throughout this resurgent campaign, one specific weakness has followed him from race to race, a straight-line speed deficit that Hamilton himself has estimated at 3 to 4 tenths of a second per lap compared to Mercedes. Think about what that actually costs a driver across an entire season. 3 or 4 tenths might sound small in isolation, but compounded across every straight, every overtaking opportunity, every single qualifying lap, that's the exact difference between fighting for wins and settling quietly for podiums instead. Hamilton has been remarkably open about this specific issue all year, consistently pointing to power and straight-line pace as the one area separating Ferrari from genuinely challenging Mercedes for the championship, rather than simply chasing it from a distance. Now, according to reports out of Italy, Ferrari is finally responding with exactly the kind of aggressive move this situation demanded. Hamilton is set to receive an all-new chassis for the Dutch Grand Prix, the very first race back from the summer break, as part of what Ferrari boss Fred Vasseur has openly described as a philosophy of continuous, aggressive development rather than sitting back once a car reaches a certain level of competitiveness. This isn't happening in isolation either. Ferrari already introduced an engine upgrade at the Austrian Grand Prix under Formula One's additional development upgrade opportunity system, and reports now suggest a second, more significant power unit upgrade is being targeted for Ferrari's home race at Monza, one that could roughly double the power gain of that first update, adding somewhere in the region of 15 additional horsepower. On a high-speed circuit like Monza specifically, that kind of gain translates into real, measurable lap time improvement, exactly the type of upgrade that directly attacks the straight-line weakness that's been quietly holding Hamilton back all season long. Here's why the timing of all of this matters so much heading into the second half of the year. Mercedes, despite dominating the first half by winning 8 of the opening 11 races, are reportedly being forced to activate what Italian press are calling a Plan B in direct response to the sheer scale of Ferrari's development push. Think about that for a second. When your closest championship rival is forced to change their own strategic approach specifically because of what you're doing behind the scenes, that's an unmistakable signal your development trajectory is being taken seriously at the highest level of a rival organization. Hamilton himself has sounded genuinely energized heading into this stretch of the season, describing feeling released to finally do what he does best after pushing hard internally for exactly the kind of changes Ferrari needed to make. That's a remarkable shift in tone from a driver who, just one season earlier, was suggesting during a difficult Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying that the team should consider signing another driver entirely. The contrast between that genuinely low point and his current position, second in the championship with fresh chassis upgrades now arriving and real title momentum building underneath him, represents one of the more compelling turnaround stories in this entire sport this year. Vasseur's own comments reinforce just how central this development philosophy has become to Ferrari's overall championship strategy. He's been explicit that maintaining development pace is the single most important factor for the second half of the season, deliberately distinguishing Ferrari's continuous upgrade approach from rivals like McLaren, who tend to concentrate their improvements into fewer, larger packages rather than a steady, relentless stream of updates. So what does this actually mean heading into Zandvoort and beyond? Does this new chassis translate into the kind of straight-line speed gain Hamilton has been asking for all season, potentially turning podium finishes into genuine race wins for the first time? Does Ferrari's aggressive development philosophy prove sustainable across the demanding back half of the calendar? Or does the pace eventually slow down as resources inevitably get stretched thin? And does Mercedes' reported Plan B response actually hold up under pressure? Or does Ferrari's growing momentum keep building toward a genuine championship threat heading into the season's final, decisive rounds? Hamilton chasing an 8th World Championship title at this exact stage of his career already carried enormous weight on its own. Now, with fresh chassis upgrades finally arriving and a team boss publicly committed to relentless, continuous development, that chase suddenly looks a lot more realistic than it did just weeks ago. Let me know in the comments. Do you think this new chassis is the missing piece Ferrari genuinely needed, or is 50 points simply too large a gap to close in the 11 races still remaining? Subscribe for more, because this development battle between Ferrari and Mercedes is only just getting started.